You've seen them. The perfect family photos on social media. Everyone smiling. Everyone looking fulfilled. The caption reads, "Blessed or grateful," or "Family is everything." And something inside you feels wrong for questioning it. But Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dared to question everything society held sacred, would tell you that your instinct is right. Because what if I told you that the concept of the happy family is one of humanity's most successful illusions? Not sometimes, not occasionally, but fundamentally. In every real man, a child is hidden that wants to play. Nietzsche wrote this because he understood something most people refuse to acknowledge. The roles we play in families aren't natural. They're performances we've been rehearsing since childhood. And the performance of family happiness might be the most exhausting show you'll ever star in. Here's what nobody tells you about family dynamics. They're built on a foundation of obligation disguised as love, duty masqueraded as care, and guilt packaged as loyalty. You grow up believing that family is supposed to be your safe haven, your unconditional support system, your forever tribe. But then reality hits. Your family becomes the place where you feel most judged, where you're constantly reverting to old patterns, where you're never quite good enough or always too much, and everyone pretends this is normal. Everyone acts like this tension is just part of loving each other. But Nietzsche saw through this charade completely. Walk into any family gathering and watch what happens beneath the surface pleasantries. Your mother makes a comment about your weight, your career, your relationship status, wrapped in concern but dripping with judgment. Your father offers advice you didn't ask for, correction you don't need, opinions about choices that aren't his to make. Your siblings compete for attention, approval, validation from parents who never learned how to give it equally. And you're supposed to smile through all of it because they're family, because blood is thicker than water, because you only get one family. These phrases aren't wisdom. They're social control mechanisms designed to keep you compliant. Nietzsche understood that morality often serves as a cage rather than a compass. And family morality is perhaps the strongest cage we ever inhabit. The obligation to love people simply because you share DNA. The requirement to maintain relationships with people who drain you, hurt you, or hold you back. The expectation that you'll sacrifice your peace, your boundaries, your very self, for the sake of family harmony. Here's the truth that makes people uncomfortable. Your family knows exactly which buttons to push, because they installed them. They know your insecurities because they created many of them. They know your triggers because they've been pulling them your entire life. And this isn't necessarily malicious. Most family dysfunction happens unconsciously. Parents repeat patterns from their parents. Siblings develop coping mechanisms that become permanent personality traits. Everyone falls into roles assigned in childhood that nobody remembers choosing. The golden child, the scapegoat, the mediator, the invisible one. These roles get cemented early and reinforced constantly. And here's what Nietzsche recognized about roles. Once you accept a role, you become trapped by it. The family needs you to play your part so their own parts make sense. If you're the responsible one, they can be irresponsible. If you're the caretaker, they can be cared for. If you're the problem, they can be the solution. Your role serves their narrative. And the moment you try to change your role, the entire family system resists. Not because they don't love you, but because your change threatens their stability. Your growth disrupts their equilibrium. Your evolution challenges their stagnation. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Nietzsche wrote this because he understood tribal thinking. And family is the first tribe we ever know. The family tribe operates on unspoken rules. Don't talk about uncomfortable truths. Don't acknowledge past hurts. Don't question family mythology. Don't break the illusion of happiness. These rules protect the collective fiction that everything is fine, everyone is trying their best, and love conquers all. But what happens when you break these rules? When you finally speak the truth everyone knows but nobody mentions? When you acknowledge that your childhood wasn't as idyllic as the photo albums suggest? When you admit that family gatherings fill you with dread rather than joy? You become the problem, the ungrateful one, the difficult one, the one who's too sensitive, too critical, too unwilling to just get along. And this label serves a purpose. It redirects attention from systemic family dysfunction to individual family members. It transforms legitimate grievances into personal failings. It makes your pain the problem instead of addressing what caused your pain. Nietzsche called this the herd mentality. The group protects itself by sacrificing individuals who threaten group cohesion. And families do this with devastating efficiency. They gaslight you into believing your memories are wrong. They minimize your experiences by comparing them to worse situations. They guilt you into compliance by invoking sacrifice, tradition, or love. And the brilliant cruelty of it all is that they do this while insisting they only want what's best for you, while claiming they're acting out of love, while maintaining the performance of family happiness. Here's what this looks like in practice. You set a boundary and they call it rejection. You choose differently and they call it rebellion. You prioritize your well-being and they call it selfishness. Because in the family system, your job isn't to be healthy, it's to maintain homeostasis. Your job isn't to grow, it's to stay predictable. Your job isn't to thrive, it's to not disrupt everyone else's comfort. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche understood that purpose makes suffering tolerable. But what happens when your purpose becomes avoiding family conflict? When your why becomes keeping everyone else comfortable? When your life's meaning gets reduced to maintaining the illusion that your family is happy? This is where the real damage occurs. You start making decisions based on family expectations rather than personal values. You pursue careers that make your parents proud, rather than careers that make you fulfilled. You stay in your hometown to be near family when your soul craves adventure elsewhere. You maintain relationships that exhaust you because ending them would hurt family feelings. You show up to gatherings you dread because absence would be noticed, questioned, judged, and slowly, imperceptibly, you become a stranger to yourself. The person you might have been gets buried under the person your family needs you to be. Your authentic self becomes a secret you keep even from yourself. Because admitting who you really are would mean admitting how different you are from who your family wants you to be. Nietzsche called this the death of the individual, not physical death, psychological death, the slow suffocation of your true nature under the weight of family expectations, social obligations, and the relentless performance of belonging. And here's the cruelest part. This death happens in the name of love. Your family genuinely believes they're loving you when they're actually controlling you. They truly think they're protecting you when they're actually limiting you. They honestly feel they're supporting you when they're actually shaping you into someone manageable, predictable, and safe. Safe for them, not necessarily safe for you. The secret for harvesting from existence the greatest fruitfulness and greatest enjoyment is to live dangerously. But family teaches you the opposite. Family teaches you to live carefully, to color inside the lines, to avoid risk, controversy, or anything that might reflect poorly on the family name. You learn to gauge every decision through the filter of family opinion. Will this disappoint them? Will this embarrass them? Will this require explanation, defense, or justification? And this constant surveillance, this internal family tribunal, becomes the voice in your head that sounds like care, but functions as control. The voice that says you can't move across the country because what about family dinners? You can't change careers because what will people think? You can't end that relationship because they're such a nice person and the family loves them. You can't be who you actually are because that's not who the family needs you to be. This is why the concept of the happy family is so dangerous. It's not that happy moments don't exist within families. They do. It's that the pressure to perform happiness prevents authentic connection. The obligation to appear grateful prevents honest conversation. The requirement to seem content prevents admitting struggle. So you get families where everyone is performing fine while everyone is actually drowning, where everyone is pretending to be close while everyone feels fundamentally alone, where everyone is maintaining the facade of happiness while everyone is quietly suffering. And the conspiracy of silence continues because breaking it feels too dangerous, too disloyal, too destructive. But here's what Nietzsche understood about destruction. Sometimes things need to be destroyed to be rebuilt authentically. Sometimes illusions need to shatter for truth to emerge. Sometimes the appearance of harmony needs to collapse for genuine peace to become possible. The thought of suicide is a great consolation. By means of it, one gets through many a dark night. Nietzsche wrote this because he understood how trapped people feel in lives they didn't choose. And for many people, family is the trap they were born into. This isn't about dramatic estrangement or cutting people off. This is about recognizing that the family structure itself often works against individual authenticity. The very mechanisms that create family cohesion, shared history, established roles, unspoken rules, are the same mechanisms that prevent individual evolution. You can't simultaneously be who your family needs you to be and who you actually are. These identities conflict. They compete. They fundamentally contradict each other. And most people spend their entire lives trying to reconcile this contradiction, trying to be authentic enough to feel real but compliant enough to maintain belonging, trying to honor themselves while honoring family expectations, trying to live their own lives while living the life their family designed for them. But this reconciliation is impossible. You can't serve two masters. You can't live for yourself while living for everyone else. You can't be free while remaining imprisoned by obligation. Nietzsche called this the will to power, not power over others, power over yourself, the power to define your own values, to make your own choices, to live according to your own truth rather than inherited scripts. And this power directly threatens family systems built on compliance. The moment you claim your power, you become dangerous to everyone invested in your powerlessness. The moment you start living authentically, you expose everyone else's performance. The moment you stop pretending, you force everyone to confront their own pretense. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. The chaos Nietzsche describes is the disorder that comes from dismantling false order, the confusion that comes from questioning certainty, the discomfort that comes from leaving the familiar. And family represents the ultimate familiar, the known, the established, the already decided. Leaving this, even psychologically, feels like chaos, like you're betraying something sacred, like you're abandoning people who need you, like you're being selfish, ungrateful, or cruel. But what if the real cruelty is demanding that people sacrifice themselves to maintain an illusion? What if the real betrayal is expecting individuals to remain small so the family can feel big? What if the real selfishness is family systems that consume individuals to perpetuate themselves? These questions don't have comfortable answers. They challenge the foundational myth that family is inherently good, naturally healthy, automatically worth preserving. But Nietzsche didn't deal in comfortable answers. He dealt in uncomfortable truths. And the truth is that many families are emotional prisons disguised as safe havens. Many family bonds are chains disguised as connections. Many family traditions are trauma responses disguised as love. This doesn't mean your family is evil. It means family systems, like all systems, prioritize their own survival over individual thriving. It means family dynamics, like all dynamics, can become toxic even with good intentions. It means family love, like all love, can be conditional, controlling, and ultimately destructive when it demands conformity over authenticity. Without music, life would be a mistake. Nietzsche wrote this about the importance of what brings you alive. But how many people abandon their music, their passion, their vitality, to meet family expectations? How many dreams die in the name of family duty? How many authentic selves get buried to maintain family peace? The accountant who wanted to be an artist, the lawyer who wanted to teach, the person who stayed local when they dreamed of traveling the world, the individual who married the right type of person rather than the right person. Every compromise made for family approval, every dream deferred for family comfort, every authentic choice rejected for family acceptance. These aren't just small sacrifices. They're deaths of possibility, murders of potential, executions of the self you might have become. And the family rarely recognizes this loss because from their perspective you made the right choice. The safe choice, the responsible choice, the choice that kept you close, kept you manageable, kept you in your assigned role. But Nietzsche would ask what was lost in that choice. What part of you died? What possibility was sacrificed? What version of yourself never got to exist because family came first? These aren't rhetorical questions. They're accounting questions. What did you pay for family belonging? Was the price worth what you received? Or did you trade your authentic self for the performance of connection? Did you sacrifice your individual truth for collective fiction? Did you abandon who you are for who they need you to be? That which does not kill us makes us stronger. This is Nietzsche's most famous quote, and his most misunderstood. People think it means suffering is always productive, that pain always leads to growth, that struggle automatically creates strength. But that's not what Nietzsche meant. He meant that surviving what should have destroyed you reveals power you didn't know you had, that enduring what seemed unendurable teaches you about your capacity, that living through what nearly killed you transforms your understanding of survival. And for many people, family is what nearly kills them, not through violence, not through obvious abuse, but through the slow erosion of self that comes from constantly performing, constantly compromising, constantly choosing everyone else's comfort over your own authenticity. This erosion is invisible. It happens slowly. It feels normal because it's all you've known. Until one day you wake up and realize you don't recognize yourself anymore. The person in the mirror lived the life your family approved of, but not the life you wanted. The person you became is who your family needed, but not who you are. And this realization either breaks you or remakes you. Either you continue the performance, accepting that this disconnection from self is the price of family belonging, or you choose differently. You choose the chaos Nietzsche described, the disorder of questioning, the discomfort of change, the difficulty of becoming who you actually are rather than remaining who they need you to be. This choice isn't easy. It's possibly the hardest choice you'll ever make, because it means accepting that you can love your family and still need distance from them. You can appreciate what they gave you and still acknowledge what they couldn't give you. You can honor the relationship while honoring yourself more. You can maintain connection while establishing boundaries. You can be part of the family while being fully yourself. Or you can't. Sometimes the gap between who you are and who your family needs you to be is too wide to bridge. Sometimes the only healthy choice is separation. Sometimes love from a distance is the only love that doesn't destroy you. God is dead, and we have killed him. Nietzsche meant that old certainties no longer hold, that inherited truths no longer function, that what everyone believed is no longer believable. And the God of family, the sacred belief that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that you only get one family, this God is dying too. More people are recognizing that biology doesn't obligate relationship, that shared DNA doesn't require shared lives, that family of origin doesn't determine family of choice. More people are choosing to love their families from whatever distance allows them to also love themselves, to maintain whatever connection feels authentic rather than obligatory, to build whatever relationship serves mutual growth rather than one-sided sacrifice. And this shift terrifies the old order, the family system that depends on guilt, obligation, and duty to maintain cohesion, the social structure that relies on people sacrificing themselves for the collective, the cultural narrative that positions individual authenticity as family betrayal. But the shift is happening anyway. People are tired of performing happiness they don't feel, tired of maintaining relationships that drain them, tired of choosing everyone else's comfort over their own well-being. They're realizing what Nietzsche knew, that true strength isn't enduring suffering. It's refusing to suffer unnecessarily. That real courage isn't staying where you're dying. It's leaving when leaving means living. That actual love isn't obligation. It's choice, freely made, continuously renewed, mutually beneficial. And when love becomes obligation, when connection becomes performance, when family becomes prison, the healthiest thing you can do is question the whole structure. Not with cruelty, not with vengeance, but with honesty. The honesty to admit that what looks like happiness might be performance. The honesty to acknowledge that what feels like love might be control. The honesty to recognize that what you've been calling family might actually be trauma bonding disguised as tradition. Nietzsche would tell you that this honesty is the beginning of freedom. The freedom to love your family without being consumed by them. The freedom to maintain connection without losing yourself. The freedom to honor relationships without sacrificing authenticity. And if your family can't handle this version of you, the real version, the honest version, the version that sets boundaries and makes choices and lives authentically, then maybe the question isn't what's wrong with you. Maybe the question is what's wrong with a family system that requires you to be less than you are to belong. What's wrong with relationships that demand performance over presence? What's wrong with love that insists on conformity as the price of acceptance? These questions don't make you ungrateful. They make you awake. They don't make you difficult. They make you honest. They don't make you a bad family member. They make you a whole person who refuses to fragment yourself for anyone's comfort. And perhaps that's the forbidden truth Nietzsche would want you to know. That the happy family you're trying to create or maintain or return to might never have existed. That the performance you're exhausting yourself to sustain might be an illusion everyone is collectively maintaining but nobody actually believes. That the price you're paying for belonging might be too high. That choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. that living authentically isn't betrayal. It's the only way to actually live. That being true to yourself isn't cruelty to your family. It's kindness to the person you've been neglecting most. Yourself. The person who's been waiting patiently for you to choose them, to prioritize them, to love them enough to stop sacrificing them for everyone else's approval. This isn't permission to be cruel to your family. It's permission to be kind to yourself, to recognize that you can love people and still need space from them, to understand that honoring yourself doesn't require dishonoring them, to know that living authentically is the most honest gift you can give everyone, including your family. Because when you stop performing happiness, you create space for real joy. When you stop pretending connection, you create possibility for genuine intimacy. When you stop being who they need and start being who you are, you give them permission to do the same. And maybe that's when actual family happiness becomes possible. Not the performed version, the real version, built on truth instead of obligation, grounded in choice instead of duty, sustained by authenticity instead of guilt. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe your family can't handle the real you. Maybe the gap is too wide. Maybe the only healthy choice is distance, and that's okay too. Because Nietzsche's ultimate message isn't about family. It's about becoming who you are, fully, completely, unapologetically, even if that means walking away from people who can only love the version of you they created, even if that means disappointing people who are invested in your compliance, even if that means shattering the illusion of the happy family to discover what authentic relationship actually looks like. That's the forbidden truth, the one no one dares to speak, that your family might be the thing standing between you and yourself, and choosing yourself might be the most loving thing you ever do, for everyone involved. The truth is, most people spend their entire lives waiting for permission that will never come, permission from their family to be different, permission to want different things, permission to live differently than expected. And Nietzsche would tell you that waiting for this permission is another trap, because the people who need you to stay the same will never give you permission to change. The family that benefits from your role will never release you from it willingly. The system that requires your compliance will never encourage your rebellion. You have to give yourself permission. Permission to disappoint them. Permission to be misunderstood. Permission to be labeled the difficult one, the ungrateful one, the one who changed. And here's what makes this so painful. You're not just fighting your family's expectations. You're fighting your own internalized voice that sounds exactly like them. The voice that says you're being selfish when you prioritize your needs. The voice that calls you ungrateful when you acknowledge harm. The voice that accuses you of betrayal when you simply tell the truth. This voice is the family you've internalized, the tribunal you carry inside yourself, the judge and jury that convicts you before you even act. And dismantling this internal voice is harder than setting external boundaries because you can't escape yourself. Nietzsche understood this completely. He knew that the hardest chains to break are the ones you can't see. The beliefs you've absorbed so deeply, they feel like your own thoughts. The values you've inherited so completely, they seem like your own convictions. The guilt you've internalized so thoroughly it functions as your own conscience. But these aren't yours. They were installed, programmed, conditioned into you before you had the language to question them. And now they operate automatically, keeping you compliant even when your family isn't in the room, keeping you small even when no one is watching, keeping you trapped even when the door is wide open. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. But what if the suffering is meaningless? What if you're suffering not because life demands it, but because family dynamics require it? What if your pain serves no purpose except maintaining a dysfunctional system? Nietzsche distinguished between necessary suffering and unnecessary suffering. Necessary suffering comes from being alive, from facing reality, from growing and changing. Unnecessary suffering comes from refusing to face reality, from clinging to illusions, from remaining in situations that damage you. And much of family suffering is unnecessary. It exists because people won't tell the truth, because everyone maintains the performance, because changing would be too uncomfortable for too many people. So you keep suffering, and you call it love. You call it loyalty. You call it what families do. But families don't have to do this. Families could be places of genuine support, authentic connection, and mutual growth. But that requires everyone to stop performing, everyone to start being honest, everyone to prioritize truth over comfort, And most families aren't willing to do this, because honesty is terrifying. It means acknowledging past hurts. It means admitting current dysfunction. It means recognizing that the happy family narrative is fiction. Most people would rather maintain the fiction than face the truth, would rather perform connection than risk what real intimacy might reveal, would rather keep the peace than disrupt it with honesty that leads to actual peace. And you can't change this alone. You can't heal a family system by yourself. You can't force other people to be honest, to be self-aware, to be willing to change. All you can do is change yourself. Change how you respond. Change what you accept. Change what you're willing to sacrifice for belonging. This is your power. Not power over them. Power over yourself. The power to stop participating in dynamics that harm you. The power to refuse roles that diminish you. The power to walk away from conversations, gatherings, or relationships that consistently leave you feeling worse about yourself. In individuals, insanity is rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. Nietzsche saw how collective thinking creates collective madness, how groups normalize dysfunction until it becomes invisible, how families can be completely insane while every individual member thinks they're perfectly reasonable. You see this in families where everyone tiptoes around one person's anger, everyone enables one person's addiction, everyone maintains one person's denial. The collective madness is that everyone adjusts their behavior to accommodate dysfunction rather than addressing it. Everyone learns to manage the symptoms rather than treating the disease. Everyone becomes complicit in maintaining the problem while complaining about its effects. And if you're the one who points this out, you become the problem. You're not being helpful, you're being hurtful. You're not being honest, you're being harsh. You're not identifying the real issue, you're creating new issues. The family system protects itself by attacking anyone who threatens its equilibrium, no matter how sick that equilibrium is. This is why change feels impossible. Because individual change disrupts collective stability. Your healing threatens their homeostasis. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Your honesty challenges their denial. So they pressure you to return to your role, to stop asking difficult questions, to accept that this is just how the family is, to stop trying to change things and just accept them. But acceptance and tolerance are different things. You can accept reality without tolerating mistreatment. You can acknowledge how things are without agreeing to leave them that way. You can understand family dysfunction without subjecting yourself to it continuously. Nietzsche would say, "This is wisdom, seeing clearly without illusion, acting decisively without cruelty, protecting yourself without needing everyone to understand why, because most people won't understand. Your family will tell you you're overreacting, that you're too sensitive, that you're making problems where none exist. They'll minimize your experience, question your motives, and guilt you for establishing boundaries. And this is the final test. Can you trust yourself when everyone you've trusted your whole life tells you you're wrong? Can you believe your own experience when your family insists your perception is distorted? Can you choose yourself when everyone who taught you about love is telling you that choosing yourself is unloving? This is where most people break. They doubt themselves. They think maybe everyone else is right. Maybe they are too sensitive, too critical, too difficult. Maybe they should just try harder to accept things as they are. Maybe they're the problem after all. But Nietzsche would remind you that the majority is usually wrong. That conventional wisdom is usually conventional foolishness. That what everyone believes is often the very thing that needs to be questioned most. And that believing yourself, trusting your experience, honoring your truth, these aren't acts of arrogance. They're acts of survival. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. This struggle never ends. It just changes form. First you struggle to see the tribe clearly. Then you struggle to separate from it psychologically. Then you struggle to maintain that separation, despite constant pressure to return. And maybe you never fully escape. Maybe you carry the tribe inside you forever. Maybe the family voice never completely disappears, but it can get quieter. Its power can diminish. Its control can weaken, until one day you realize you're making choices based on what you want rather than what they expect. You're living according to your values rather than their values. You're being who you are rather than who they need you to be. And the guilt is still there sometimes. The doubt occasionally resurfaces. The old programming still activates under stress. But now you recognize it for what it is. Not truth, not love, not care, but conditioning. programming, control mechanisms that served someone else's needs but never served yours. This is freedom, not the absence of family, but the presence of self, not the destruction of relationships, but the construction of authenticity, not hatred of where you came from, but love for where you're going, and where you're going is entirely up to you. Not your family, not their expectations, not their disappointment or approval. You, the person who's been buried under roles and obligations and performances, the person who's been waiting patiently for permission to exist, the person who's been there all along, just quieter than the voices telling you who to be. That person gets to decide now, gets to choose, gets to live. And whatever your family thinks about those choices is their business, not yours. Whatever story they tell about why you changed is their narrative, not your truth. Whatever relationship remains after you stop performing is the only relationship that was ever real anyway. Everything else was just theater, just pretend, just the forbidden illusion of the happy family that nobody dares to speak about. Until now. And you who are watching now, which city are you from? Write it here in the comments. I love knowing where each person who follows our content comes from. To finish, leave a comment. Thanks so much if this content changed your way of thinking. Each comment shows me I'm on the right track. Click subscribe immediately and take the opportunity to leave that like, because you deserve access to all the exclusive content I prepare daily. I'm preparing something in the next video that will make you understand everything from a completely new perspective. Stay tuned because it's coming hot.